So thank you all for joining this EuReComp webinar. I would like to welcome all the speakers that we have today. The presentation will be given by Circularise, and the title of today's presentation is The Digital Leap, Enhancing End-of-Life Recovery with Digital Product Passports in Aerospace, Automotive and Wind Energy sectors. The presentation will start from Maria Leon from Circularise, and we have also today two end users from EuReComp project, Chiara Pernechele from Dallara and Thomais Tiriakidou from BNT Composites. So we will have a short overview of the work of Circularise within EuReComp project, and then we will have a roundtable discussion where our end users will discuss the necessity of the digital passport in the composite sector of the different fields that we are discussing today. This could be aerospace, automotive, and we have also the wind energy sector. So again, to welcome all, Maria Leon, who is the research manager of Circularise, Phil Brown, the head of sustainable innovation of Circularise, Chiara Pernechele, the material science senior engineer from Dallara automotive industry in Italy, and Dr. Thomais Tiriakidou, mechanical engineer, head of research project department of the BNT Composites. Thank you all, and Maria, you may start with the general presentation of the work that you are carrying out in EuReComp. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate, for the introduction. And hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. So I would like to start the presentation sharing a video from our Formula 2 Dutch driver partner, Richard. He has like a small message that he wanted to share for this webinar.
First is Lars here. I'm a Formula 2 driver for MP Motorsport. We're currently on our way to Imola by car, as you can see. So still a bit of a trip to go, but I'm very excited to get back on track this weekend and the week after in Monaco as well. At the moment, I'm racing in Formula 2, and the championship is basically a single make championship where all the teams have the same car, the same engine, all the same parts, which we're not allowed to improve ourselves. We can only improve the setup. So that's extra important for me to give good feedback to the team and for the team to set up the car as best as they can with the components that they have. And one thing that's very nice about the Formula 2 championship is also that we're trying to improve the sustainability. We are actually testing a few things such as the fuel and certain parts on the car that Formula 1 might try and actually use in the future. So it's nice to see that we are actually gathering data already in Formula 2 to hopefully make it more sustainable in the future. So that's very exciting. Also, the EU project currently that's going on together with Circularise and a partner of mine and Dallara is hopefully helping a lot. And I wish you best of luck for the webinar today and hopefully meet you all soon.
So, well, as you heard from Richard, we're working very hard on getting this circularity and this traceability, bringing more sustainable efforts towards the automotive sector and in general different sectors in the industry. So just to give you a small overview, at Circularise, we're committed to achieving the circularity and maximizing resource efficiency, which is why I'm thrilled to have you all here today to talk about the challenges that we have faced in the EuReComp project for handling end-of-life composite-based materials, and give our experience and the learnings from the EU-funded EuReComp project. So Circularise is a SME based in the Netherlands, and we have developed a platform for secure data sharing among value chain stakeholders. So traceability is gaining importance among the value chains, and companies are every day more interested in tracing components, in getting information about materials, processes, environmental impacts, given the increasing regulations around data transparency and overall due diligence. So DPPs are an example of this, digital product passports, and they are scheduled batteries as the first industry to take effect in 2027, and afterwards will come all other sectors. So additional to this, given the commitments around the targets for climate change, sustainability initiatives have appeared, for example, the Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, as well as other regulations like the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products, or ESPR. And all these in general are efforts and regulations that require one thing, the data availability among the value chains. Also, as mentioned by our driver, very important right now. So the way that data is gathered right now, it's involving emails among the different stakeholders in the value chain, which is really time consuming, it's susceptible to fraud and to security breaches. So here is where Circularise comes, where we provide a tool that enables the secure data sharing, so secure information sharing among the value chains, among the different stakeholders. And here suppliers can now create, and the different stakeholders in the value chain itself can create the digital product passports and share key information to their customers without endangering their intellectual property and competitive advantages. So information such as sourcing, chemical composition, technical properties, and environmental assessments are now available all throughout the value chain in one platform. And here you can see it's just a small example of a battery passport, where you can see the different details from this battery itself. So all this data availability enables to comply with the regulations mentioned before, with all the different standards, with the certifications that companies are seeking, or even specific OEMs requirements from the suppliers. So for example, specific details that they need to know for their own processes or for their own internal traceability or bookkeeping. So stakeholders among the value chain can agree upfront on which questions to ask and data to trace, so that they have an idea of what information is needed and they can provide it in the correct way. So in general, what do DPPs enable? They enable to perform impact assessments, as well as to provide proof for certifications and claims around improvement of, for example, sustainability metrics. It is also possible with them to share data that supports process improvement, better resource allocation, and then more informed decisions can be taken. In the end, this also facilitates overall compliance and also risk mitigation and supply chain resilience. And finally, by having data transparency and value chain visibility, new business models can be developed, for example, with the chemical and material information. End-of-life components can be better recycled, or have new products designed with extended life cycles. So here it's an example of, or well, the EuReComp project is an example of all the benefits that the DPP can bring. And this project aims to provide sustainable methods toward recycling and reuse of composite materials coming from components used in the various industries, such as aerospace, with wind energy also. Then Circularise in here contributes to this goal through the improvement of the traceability and information sharing in the value chains available in the project. And yeah, for in general, extending this knowledge for all aerospace, automotive, wind energy value chains for better and more informed decision making. So Circularise has improved the tools, the digital tools that we provide to support the requirements, specifically in the aerospace, automotive, and wind turbine sectors, as mentioned. And this enables the stakeholders in the value chains to securely share data throughout the different steps. So from upstream, very early in the stage, until downstreams, even end-of-life stages, so that all the stakeholders have greater visibility into the components, and then they can comply with regulations, prove claims such as the recycled content that they have, and improve their processes by having more information on the different parts. So for example, an end-of-life operator can now know if certain substances and chemicals are present in the components they receive, so that they can use the most adequate process and maximize efficiency. So this is an example of the EuReComp project, the outcomes that we have had, and we supported multiple pilots to demonstrate the technology. This is the specific case of the tubular shaft that was produced by B&T Composites, where Thomais is here present to talk later more about this. And in this Sankey diagram, that it's the diagram that you see on the right-hand side, companies can click through the different components, and then they will be able to have access to the data that was shared by the owner of this component. So in here, you can see that some of the data from the final product is present, so the dimensions, some fiber information. But if they were to click on the other components, some other information will appear from the others. Then the importance of this is that the information comes directly from each company in the value chain, providing reliable information. And then it's not just information that is outdated in a old central database, but rather they provided it on the date where it was created, and then making the claims and everything more reliable. And they can also determine, for example, who has access to each question or each data point that is present here, protecting their sensitive data. So they can decide, for example, in here, the winding shaft or like the carbon fiber supplier, they can decide what information can be seen by the further stakeholders downstream to protect their own data, of course. And then this is another example of the pilots from the EuReComp project. And here it's a PV panel made from end-of-life wind turbines. So here we showcase how the waste that was previously just landfill can be actually used for something else. And you can see a more complex value chain that involve multiple components, multiple steps and stakeholders, and how everything can still be traced in the same platform and enable users to have data of very upstream, but also till the creation of new components. And you can see that the access can be, or the details can be accessed on the left-hand side when clicking through the different components in this case. So this is a small overview of the EuReComp project. And now I will stop sharing and give the word back to Kate for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this concise presentation, and also with the examples that you have included by EuReComp partners. I would like to start with a question mainly to Phil in order to explain a little bit to the rest people that are here today with us about the legislation and how it has pushed companies for more transparent practices, especially for ESPR legislation. Phil, could you tell us more about that and generally how legislations and regulations impact the value chains?
Of course, and thank you, Kate, for the question, and hello to the audience. So what I would say, based upon regulation, there's actually three areas that I'd like to touch on. So the fact that we are entering into a regulatory-driven process for transparency, and which was most notably linked to the EU push, which is under the Eco-Design and Sustainable Products Initiative, as well as many others, which I'll touch on those. But I also want to explain how this regulatory driver from EU is also creating a global push from a regulatory point of view. The second part that I'll also discuss too is actually the business case for going beyond the regulation as well, because obviously if we think about regulations, they create the system and conditions which companies have to operate in. But this is normally, a regulation is normally seen as the stick, but there's also a lot of carrots, a lot of opportunities held within traceability as well. So on the first point, to all members on the call, what I would say is we're now swimming in the acronym soup. There's the Eco-Design Principles, ESPR, there's CSRD, which is Corporate Social Reporting Directive, there's Corporate Social Reporting Due Diligence Directive, there's EUDR. So you might become inundated with all of these acronyms. The main point is, and it's what Maria mentioned in her presentation, all of these different regulations require data at the batch or product level. And this is really to try and bring together understanding of what is happening across a value chain and the impacts. Now, the game-changing regulation in this, in my view, is the Eco-Design for Sustainable Product Regulation, because this is much more widely going to impact all of the products we buy and sell. Now, the idea of this is the aim is to provide the data per product batch so that you can do product lifetime extension, you can also do recovery at end of life, but also engage in consumer behavior change by providing more information about the products that they use. The Corporate Social Reporting Directive and Corporate Sustainable Due Diligence Directive, these are adjacent to the Eco-Design Principles, but they're also really focused much more on a B2B reaction. How do companies share and transfer information together? And then when I look at the EUDR, the European Deforestation Regulation, which also requires information specific to the biological streams. So all of this is creating this push for transparency. And as I mentioned before, this has a global effect where the US, Japan, China, OECD countries, as well as standard bodies like ISO, are all coming out with this push for more and more granularity on data. Now, I probably don't have time at this stage to answer anything around the omnibus effect. Those in the room may have heard of the omnibus coming out, which is simplifying some of the pathway and development of this, as well as extending the timelines to basically give companies more of a chance to actually gather this data, because as Maria said, and quite rightly so, it's one of the main challenges. That said, I'd also like to go to the second part that I wanted to answer, which is also the business value and the impacts upon supply chains. So what we're seeing is that companies are, and as they always do, responding to regulation, but a lot of companies are also responding to regulation in advance of that regulatory landscape changing. So the aim here is really to future-proof their license to operate. We also saw within the project results that Maria was sharing, there's a lot of internal improvements that can be made by having more data and granularity on the products that are going along the value chain. But we're also seeing that there's a split between those winners and losers. Those first movers who are really looking to go beyond the regulation, those that are only wanting to meet the regulation, they are all in the winning camp. The others are really into that, oh, well, we'll just wait for the regulation to land. Now, again, anyone on the call who's from a company, I would highly invite you to go and speak to your IT team and ask them, if I came to you tomorrow with this and this and this request for data, would you be able to provide it? Survey will probably say no. So my push to you in this regard would be start trying to understand what will be coming your way, depending on where you are in the value chain. Now, if we look at operational impacts, there's a lot of product level data that is becoming core to the operations. Maria gave some really tangible examples in the project around repair, recovery, refurbishment, all of the R strategies that we're talking about. But there's also supplier engagement. So how far back up the value chain do I need to go? And all of this is coming into what we would frame as data flows and internal processing. So the standard term of we can't measure what we don't manage. So we now need to manage the data flows. And I would invite anyone on the call to also look at our Samsonite case. So Samsonite is it's a suitcase manufacturer. And they have done a lot of work in advance of the regulations because they would like to be regulatory ready. Now, to bring it to the market space that we're operating in composites and chemicals, we've also been working with Teijin. Teijin provides a lot of carbon fiber materials. And again, they've recently come out in the last few weeks with an announcement of being DPP enabled and DPP ready. And the reason that they've been wanting to do this is to mitigate their risks of any of future regulation, but also they are seeing that there is a premium possibility to position their products that come with a DPP, which allows their downstream buyers to be ready for all of these regulations. But it's also allowing them to engage more with customer trust as well. So engaging with downstream buyers by providing more and more information. Now that's the operational side. The other side that Teijin has been working with us is around proving the recovery of their currently internal manufacturing processes. So they're actually taking used carbon fiber materials within manufacturing processes. It has to be clear it's not yet to post-consumer, but that is the end goal as well. So long-winded answer to Kate's question. I hope everybody followed that. But Kate, back to you. I don't know if there's any follow-up.
Thank you very much, Phil. I think that you have mentioned a lot of different aspects that are related, especially in our project, to our end users. So I think that you gave me the floor to ask Chiara about the challenges that she faced when trying to get data from stakeholders, because you mentioned, Phil, that sometimes there is difficult to go back to the first steps of products. So Chiara, since you were one of the cases that have been analyzed in EuReComp project regarding the automotive parts, can you please share with us some challenges that you faced?
Yes, thank you, Kate. Hello, everyone. Yes, surely the traceability is one of the crucial aspects in this point. And regarding particular our company, it involves all the supply chain. So one of the main challenges we faced, both within the project, but that a company faces in general, is the one to gain insight on the materials that we receive from our suppliers or that we buy to realize our components. This first point is related to the fact that some information, in particular regarding raw materials, are difficult to be collected due to basically IP reasons. So the one of the main also topics is related to not only traceability but also the intellectual property of the different recipe and of the different materials. And the second crucial challenge for us was the data standardization. So in order to correctly speak to our partners, suppliers, and stakeholders, we absolutely need to speak the same language, and data standardization and defining the correct way of exchanging information was one of the first point and first obstacles that we needed to overcome for these aspects. This happens sometimes because the companies and the different supply chains are not always ready to deal with these topics. And from this point of view, surely the approach that Maria showed us would absolutely help in pushing the adoption of this approach and the adoption of digital product passport.
Chiara, for your company, is it something that will be used afterward, the DPP? Is it something that you will adopt? Because now it started within EuReComp project, but the point is to continue this.
Yes, from this point of view, surely EuReComp was one of the fantastic platform on which we were able to start dealing with DPP and starting to understand also the logic and the different aspects that need to be developed to settle a structured approach and correct way of defining the DPP of our components. Absolutely, it would be one of the activities on which we will push in the next future. Also because the topic of traceability and DPP is strongly encouraged, and also helps in proposing to our customers products that are clearer with interesting information about the possibilities of using them, and also on how we could deal, for example, with the end of life of all these parts.
Great to know. Thank you very much. I would like to ask a similar question also to Thomais, because again, the work of B&T Composites and EuReComp is to make parts for through filament winding, also for the automotive industry and not only. So it was again the first time that B&T was familiarized with the DPP. So I don't know, Thomais, what are your expectations for the digital product passport for your products, and what data are the most relevant to your case?
Thank you, Kate. From a B&T Composites perspective, the main expectation from DPPs is to provide comprehensive traceability throughout the entire life cycle of composite components, from raw material sourcing to end-of-life scenarios such as reuse, recycling, or remanufacturing. The most relevant data for us included material composition and origin, manufacturing process parameters, mechanical and structural properties, certifications and compliance indicators, environmental impact metrics, and end-of-life instructions or reuse potential. And it was crucial to know the material composition and origin, because a properly selected and qualified supplier are the keys to ensuring the quality and the performance of the final composite product. Especially in high-performance applications like ours, any variation in raw material properties can significantly affect the outcome. Secondly, we operate with frozen procedures agreed with our clients, meaning that specific materials and parameters are locked and must be followed exactly. No deviations are allowed without formal requalification. In that context, understanding the material origin and process parameters is not optional, it's mandatory. Finally, we have our own internal traceability system, which records all critical parameters across the value chain, from raw materials to final composite parts. This helps us guarantee process consistency, quality assurance, and also compliance with standards like ISO or Aerospace and defense standards. So, yes, this kind of data as part of DPP is not just nice to have, it's essential not only for us as manufacturers, but also for the broader composite industry. This data enables better integration into circular economy pathways and helps meet both regulatory and market-driven sustainability demands.
Thank you, Thomais. And I was wondering how easy it was to define what components you have to trace, because this is the main challenge also within EuReComp, since we have multiple streams.
It was not an easy way. There were several challenges in implementing DPPs, especially in the context of complex multi-material composite structures. But we had to do it, of course, with the professional assistance of Circularise. For the first of the challenges was the definition of relevant data. We had to balance the internal knowledge that we have already monitored for quality assurance in our company with external expectations, such as sustainability, metrics, and recyclability potential. The next challenge was to choose what to trace. In our case, with components made from advanced thermoset composites, it was not always clear which sub-components or layers were most critical for traceability. We had to collaborate closely with Circularise to define this. And the next challenge we had to face was regarding the data standardization. Different projects or customers request data in varying formats. Aligning this with DPP frameworks and international standards was a key step, but not always easy. And of course, there were concerns around data confidentiality. Since our production involves innovation and IP-sensitive processes, we had to ensure that the DPP architecture allowed for data protection and control sharing. Ultimately, while the process involved many decisions and trade-offs, it provided valuable insights on how DPPs can be realistically and meaningfully applied to composite materials.
Very nice. It's really interesting how you have actually faced the whole process within EuReComp. So I would like to ask both Chiara and you, Thomais. I think that Chiara may start. How you think that the end-of-life management of your structures and your products will be assisted by the DPP, and generally regarding the overall circularity, which is the matter of EuReComp. Do you think that the platform and generally the DPP will help and enhance the circularity of your company?
Well, from this point of view, we think that DPP is absolutely fundamental in order to have a wider overview of the component, and both in the moment in which the component enters in the market, but also when it reaches its end of life. From this point of view, customers can have information on the product and can also have an insight, if we want, on the productive cycles and also on the possibilities that they have, that they can face for the end of life moment. So if it's more useful to reuse, recycle, or refurbish it. It's a matter, I would say, of how the DPP is defined, and would be one of the important information that could be deduced from them. From our point of view, it gives a strong push on the traceability of all the different parts, of all the different ingredients, in a smarter way with respect to what is normally done. So about collecting documents and putting all this information, for example, on a PC or on a company server. It would be absolutely smarter and much more easier to check and study. From this point of view, the exercise we did within EuReComp helped us in understanding the correct way of approaching these aspects, and would be the first step to start with these activities. A productive company can anyway keep his IP in let's say safer, with safe data sharing, and at the same time be effective on the circular approach.
Good to know. Thank you. And Thomais, from your side, a similar question to see also your position on the topic. Do you think that this approach will help end-of-life management and the overall circularity?
Without any doubt, different platforms share giving figures information about the materials, how a component is made, and how it can be reused, recycled, or safely disposed. With the professional assistance of Circularise, that they make it easier to keep materials in the loop by enabling smarter decisions on repair, remanufacturing, or material recovery. Without any doubt, yes. A very helpful tool for industries like ours.
Nice to see that through this project, it was a nice chance also for you to collaborate. Yeah. And Phil, now that our end users, both Chiara and Thomais, share their views, and as an expert on circularity aspects, how would you like to conclude and to see your future cooperation? What are your thoughts about this?
Thank you very much for the question. And I mean, as part of collaboration, it's also around finding out those next steps. So I think through this work, we've identified a lot of challenges. Also, we've discussed those challenges here. Really, it's around scaling. And I think all parties included in this project indicate that this is a networked proposition. The entire value chain needs to work together. So my hope and where I'd like to see the conclusion of this collaboration and leading into other collaborations is bringing in more parties. Also really understanding, and I've shared in the chat for the audience, some of the examples from Teijin and Samsonite. So these are different markets and adjacent to this area. To bring it closer to the project itself, and automotive, aerospace, and wind turbines, for instance, we are seeing a lot of uptake within this, and the regulation is helping, but also actually having core partners on this project from business interacting with us, their business units, sharing their challenges and problems, as well as also understanding the underlying business case. So I think next steps for us all within the project and also beyond is to bring in more partners to work together, understand what is the economic potential for this product lifetime extension. Because again, there's a lot of inherent value, but it needs to be proven. And I think what also needs to be proven is not just within research and development processes, but as we've done with Samsonite, for instance, and Teijin, bringing that to market so that others, by triggering their interest, also start to ask the questions, how can this then work within my value chain? What are the potential value opportunities that I can gain, either from efficiency or from new business models that they can explore with? From a point of conclusion to all of this, I would just say to everyone on the call, just try and think small. In the first instance, like we've done here, where we've tested with smaller products, but then really have that longer term vision of how you would actually implement this within your own organization, and then identify those core challenges and problems where you feel a digital product passport solution could support and help. I don't know, Maria, if there's anything else that you would add from having been on the project directly as well. So a little space for you.
Thank you, Phil, for the great overview. No, I think you basically mentioned most of the things. In general, it's about also conscientious about the topic and about learning or getting to know more about this, because that's one of the main issues that in general we have in the industry, is that most people don't really know what digital products are and what they entail, because there is a lot of still misconceptions or understanding that it's still being done in general. And this is like a recent concept and shakes the entire logistics of the industries of what has been done before, because before there was no data gathering or data availability. So this is really getting a new challenge about learning what this is and starting to make those practices of making data available and being shared among the value chains a day-to-day practice, and not just something that it's out there, but really making it a part of the logistics and the businesses of companies. And that's why Circularise is also here, and that's why the EuReComp project, or what the EuReComp project also tries to demonstrate, and is how to incorporate these things into the day-to-day activities and the businesses, and the overall goals of companies for improving circular practices and all. So that's what I would add.
From my side, as looking the whole project in general and as a whole, I would like to add that it's really important that right now that we have developed demonstrators, that the second generation demonstrators of EuReComp, actually, this is both the product that Dallara is developing and also BNT Composites. It's really important to see the history of the material, because the second generation demonstrators in EuReComp are products that have been constructed by secondary raw materials that have been extracted and valorized from the end-of-life structures that we are working on and we are recycling. So it is like giving a new life to these materials that have been valorized from other sources. It's actually repurposing and recycling. So it's really important to know the whole history, especially on the fields that we are talking about on automotive. And of course, it's the matter of certification afterwards to see if this type of products can be inserted in the market. And for this, the certification is of high importance. So it's really nice to see how we have proceeded till now with your collaboration and with your use cases. And I think that now we have time for questions from the audience. Thanks for listening to us this time, all this time that we were discussing all these aspects. So now the time is yours to ask your questions, either typing them on the chat or raising your hand. It could be any question, either to our end users or to Circularise regarding the platform and the DPP. Okay.
Kate,
No. Yeah.
Kate, just
Yes.
I would like to add something to what you said. From this point of view, you are right. The fact that within this project we are producing second generation demo, the role of a digital product passport is even more important, because without a correct traceability of the different material, this demo will stay at this level. On the contrary, with a complete analysis of all the different materials that were used and a complete traceability of the process could then lead this demo to become real products. So they could be introduced in the market with a more reliable, let's say, origin, and also complete traceability of the different ingredients and materials that were used inside of the component. Otherwise, the route of having this circular approach, for example, in the case of the Dallara, one of the Dallara demos, we used part of the recycled material comes from one of our end-of-life parts. So we try to close the loop. Without this traceability, the product won't be accepted in nowadays markets. So this is absolutely crucial, I think.
I agree. Thank you, Chiara, for your comment. Thank you very much. So, are any other questions from the audience? Oh, we hope that you enjoyed our webinar. You're free to ask. Yes, for sure, Phil, if you want to add something.
Well, if the audience isn't asking us questions, I would like to ask the audience questions, because one of the key questions that sits with me, and again, the example we've presented here with Samsonite, and we have companies trying to share this data. But what would be the trigger for you if you have two products in front of you, and one is a sustainable product with all of the digital product passport and information, and we've got Chiara on the team who's been doing loads of work within this, and they provide all of this data and bringing all. What is that thing that would say, okay, I'm going to pay more for this sustainable product because of X? What is X? What can we do to deliver better products to you as consumers that provide that information? That's my question. Is it too complicated to answer?
No. I have a personal view on this question, but I would like to see if someone would like first to share the thoughts. If not, I will answer to you. Okay, so let me start. As a consumer, from my side, I would like to see the recycled content in a product that I would like to use to be more sustainable, and to be sure that the product that I'm using has been developed with an environmental friendly way. But on the other hand, there's always a fear that the recycled product is not as good as the original one. So there, some performance indicators should be also included in order to ensure the same performance or better performance if this is the case. So I think that it's a balance of sustainability and performance. And somehow these need to be quantified and to have specific metrics to be included in each of the DPPs.
Yes,
Thank you.
Kate, this is absolutely true. For example, when we tried to introduce some sustainable material at research level, one of the first questions and one of the first comments that arise were exactly, is this material behaving in the same way as the standard one? So this is one of the main points we should include on the DPP, but we also need to be able to answer correctly in order to push these second generation products or sustainable material in general. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to open the market to these aspects.
Thank you, Chiara. So there are some questions also typed in the chat. I will start with the first one. Probably Phil can answer them. There's also the answer typed. Yeah, I was trying to read loudly the question. So just for you to know that it was not clear if ESPR primarily or only concerned with consumer products or also with B2B products and components. And Phil answered that ESPR applies to all physical goods placed on the EU market. And the second question, mainly it's a comment. It is regarding the cost. So the question is, why would a recycled product cost even higher than the one made with virgin materials? And from the consumer point of view, the sustainability factor might not be quite fascinating to the people, particularly in the underdeveloped or developing countries. Here, I think that also Phil answered that, but generally the point is sometimes the processing that is needed to make a recycled product makes the final product more expensive. And here it's a matter of sustainability view. If you want to buy something that is recycled and more sustainable than the original one, it's just consumer practice and consumer view. But indeed, in order to make a recycled material, it may cost more because you add extra processing on the end of life part that you want to bring again to life. Okay, and there was also the answer from Catherine, and she says that she thinks that consumers will typically react quite differently to DPP information than companies, since the latter have to comply with relevant laws and therefore having different incentives other than price. And of course, I would like here to add that it's also the legislation that companies need to follow. Consumers are free to decide what they want to buy or not, but the companies need to follow the rules. Yeah, Phil, please.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kate, and also Catherine for the point, and agreed. So at Circularise, how we view this, if we rewind history and look at food labeling on packaging, previously it was, if you picked up a package from the 1960s, 70s, or 80s, you could almost put any information on there. There wasn't any standardized, obviously you needed ingredients, but now we have a very simple traffic light system, the Nutri-Score. So if it's healthy, if it's nutrient rich, it is green. If it's unhealthy and nutrient poor, it is red. And then this is a very simple test. But for food, this is very straightforward. And actually what we'd like to achieve at Circularise is a way to actually provide something similar to consumers. So is this a sustainable product? And therefore then all of the work that the actors on this call are doing, and exactly as Kate mentioned, recovering the material, reprocessing, diagnosing the material, bringing that back into a manufacturing process that is of quality and will meet the use phase of said product. You can do all of that work, or you can produce the same virgin material in exactly the same way using petrochemicals. So then if I pick up two products, let's say in this case, it's a carbon fiber suitcase, let's say, because I really want to use that. Then I can then see and compare very, very quickly and easily. But I do agree, Kate, it's going to be, Catherine, sorry, it's going to be very interesting how consumers will react with this and whether they will make active purchasing decisions. I see Cahil's also got his hand up, so I'll make space for him.
Please, Khalil. You may unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you.
Yes, okay. I think thank you for the great presentation. Actually, I've been quite thinking from a long time about this perspective, especially the digital product, like this passport. So I think this would be a great initiative if it could be successful. But just like what was discussed before, that like getting the right information, it might be challenging. Because I am working for the wind turbines. So I would just like particularly quote from this point of view, it's really hard to, convince the manufacturers to share the details about the blade parts, especially because they are non-recyclable, and there's a lot of research going on this particular area. And there are some initiatives for repurposing. I believe this digital passport would be more suitable for the repurposing initiatives. And in that particular scenario, I think there are three key stakeholders: the governments and the public, like the society, and of course the industries. So just like I have asked a question earlier to Mr. Phil Brown, and I think he spoke very clearly, and that was quite helpful. So just like there are some concerns about the cost. So if I think from the business point of view, for any industry, they would definitely want their product to be globally available, if not at least nationwide, or more customer response rather than from the people who advocate the environmental factor. Of course, this is a plus point, but from the industry point of view and from the mass production, I think if your product is more expensive than the one made with virgin material, so I think people would be less. They would be reluctant to buy that, especially in the underdeveloping or in the semi-developed countries. So just like you said, maybe the governments can incentivize these companies, but I think that is the profit for the company. But that would not reduce the cost. Or maybe there could be a point, I think, because you are in this area, so maybe you can raise this concern. I'm thinking from a consumer point of view that if the government incentivizes you, so maybe that incentive could be adjusted in the price, so that could overall lower the price and bring it to the to the same level as that of the one made with the virgin material. So that's my personal thinking. That's all.
Thank you, Khalil. Phil, do you have to add something on Khalil's consultation?
Yeah, very much so. So Cahill, you're 100% correct. Within a functioning circular economy, again, it's in the term economy. There'd have to be an exploration of shifting or creating subsidies in this adoption phase. What we are seeing specifically in the wind turbine space, to bring it closer to your market segment, as part of the government procurement, so a B2G, when governments are procuring, say, large infrastructure projects, which wind turbines fall under, that they are increasingly asking for more and more data related to the environmental credentials of those assets going in. So there is, and this is again one of those directions of travel that under green procurement, which the Netherlands, so we're based in the Netherlands, they're one of the leaders of this initiative, where they want to try and create markets, and by proxy of also their own commitments to Paris agreements and other commitments. Many countries are now bringing out circular economy commitments by 2030 or 2050. Many industries are doing the same. But I think the core point that you've raised as well about it not being an undue burden on the consumer, this is a very correct one. There will be this increased cost in the early beginning, but again, we're in this transitional phase. So once it becomes more of a standard operation, actually, and that's the longer term business value for companies, that once you created systems of recovery, reuse, repurposing, you mentioned also the work on repurposing of wind turbine blades. Yes, very correct. But there is also a lot of work looking at, can we actually remove some of the resins, get back to the actual fibers themselves, recover those back into full life cycle. And there you would need digital product passports again. But it's not going to all happen in day one and or transition straight away. So I think your point around government interaction and the actors you presented is very, very valid. If there's more interest on that as well, and there's a load of research going on to this space, but would just say you're not wrong. You're in the right path. And if you're doing it from your point of view, start asking more and more of your wind turbine producers for more and more information, because this is also what's driving companies like Teijin and the other companies that we have on the call here to do this type of work. Because the more downstream demand for this, the more reason and value there will be to do so as well.
You're right, Phil. So I think that we are out of time. It was a very interesting webinar today. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and it was nice that we had this interactive section this time, and not only just the plain presentation. Thank you, Maria, for organizing this. In case that you have other questions, you may contact the speakers individually or through us. And be prepared for more EuReComp webinars. Soon we will announce the next one. And always related to circularity and recycling aspects of composite materials. Thank you very much for your attention and have a nice afternoon. Thank you also for the speakers, Chiara, Thomais, Maria, and Phil. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.